Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and it's snowing because I live in North Dakota and that's how my life works. But I wanted to give you a quick update about this whole Iran and Israel situation and let you know my thoughts about the fact that I think they just bought us some more time to get better prepared before that whole thing spirals out of control, which is still likely in my opinion, but with this additional time we might have now, we should be using it wisely, right? We'll talk about why that is here in just a second, but I do want to mention that Midway USA is the biggest supporter of the channel. Thanks to them, I can get out here, give you this information, and of course they also have everything you need when it comes to getting better equipped for SHTF type scenarios, which people over there in the Middle East are definitely facing on a regular basis now, right? So hope it doesn't ever happen here. So Israel just had their counterattack on Iran, and both sides are downplaying it, which is why they've bought us some more time to get better prepared, because they're trying not to escalate things much further, but they don't want to be the one who loses, which is why this whole thing still has that potential of getting even more out of hand. Now, Iran is saying that Israel had agents inside their country as well as planes, fighter jets launching these attacks, and they said that they were attacked in their country as well as in Syria and Iraq. So something to keep in mind. And of course, there's a new update regarding Iraq that we'll talk about here in a second regarding the fact that this whole thing's spilling over even further, apparently. Now, here's the thing. One of the attacks was on Isfahan Air Base, which is obviously a military target within Iran. And according to satellite imagery that was somehow acquired by CNN of all outlets, it doesn't seem like there was any substantial damage. So Israel's not saying a whole lot about this whole situation, but Iran is saying, it's not a big deal, nothing really happened. That's very different from the rhetoric they were saying just yesterday in regards to the fact that if Israel did any type of attack on Iranian soil, once again, they would have to retaliate to the full extent of their capabilities or something along those lines, which isn't necessarily the rhetoric we're hearing today. So just keep that in mind, because words have been said and lines have been crossed, and that can always lead to things getting much worse in the future. Either way, that's what happened. We also had a report of 3 missiles being fired at a radar site that was protecting the Natanz nuclear plant. So likely this might have been just a show of force in the sense of letting Iran know they could reach their nuclear targets, I guess you might say. But either way, probably frowned upon by anybody who's concerned about a nuclear event of any kind. So just keep that in mind. But that was reported. We don't really know everything that actually happened. This is just what we're being told, of course. Now, like I said, Israel's quiet about a lot of what's happened over there. So, there's speculation involved. And Iran is trying to say that it wasn't even really a big deal. And it sounds like they're trying to just say, we're done here, nothing else to see, which is why we've had more time bought for us. And of course, with this time, what should we be doing? Well, obviously, what could happen the most quickly when it comes to escalations and tensions in the Middle East, right? Well, it's going to affect oil, and it's going to affect cost of living, fuel, and things like that. So make sure you're really considering that when it comes to keeping your gas tanks topped off, when it comes to having your fuel reserves topped off, when it comes to having fuel additives like stabilizers in order to keep it stored for longer available to you before everybody else gets the same ideas, right? These are things you should be considering now at least. But either way, okay, there was just an attack on a base belonging to the Iranian-backed Popular Mobilization Forces, which is an Iraqi militia, basically. But they are Iranian adjacent, and that attack just happened, like just recently here. There's a huge explosion there at a military base down in the Babylon Governorate, I guess is how you say that. English isn't my... Well, it is my only language, but still, I do the best I can. Now, these explosions that were happening there occurred at an ammo depot. So even though we had Iran saying, it's not a big deal and nothing really happened, but they had agents in Syria, Iraq, and Iran, as well as fighter jets blowing stuff up, they didn't really do any damage and we're not worried about it. And then you had Israel saying, we're not really going to say a whole lot, but we did target that radar site. So, whoops. But everybody was trying to downplay it and act like it's not a big deal, and then immediately there's an attack happening in Iraq now against the PMF, which is Iranian adjacent. So, like I said, they might have bought us some time here because it doesn't seem like there is like a concerted effort to increase the escalation status of the situation. But then we had this whole thing happen in Iraq. So it just takes one event to move things into a exponentially worse scenario. And these events all could be that catalyst and maybe just aren't quite yet, which is why I think, they bought us some time but that time could be very limited. So make sure you're using it wisely, make sure you're paying attention to what's happening, and understand that although these things might be happening over there, and it's not like an America problem when it comes to being prepared and trying to avoid any of those dangers and everything else, just remember that Iran has the ability to hack into a lot of our infrastructure here in the United States, and they have threatened to do so in response to our support of Israel in the past. And don't forget, they just recently hacked some of our water systems that were using Israeli-made hardware components that were controllers for those particular water utility systems. And so those possibilities are there. So I'm not saying something's going to happen. I don't know any of these things for a fact, of course, but I'm just reminding you that we could still experience some of the fallout of this scenario here in the United States. So use this time wisely. Be prepared to react to these types of situations the best you can. And of course, if anything else crazy happens, I'll let you know the best I can. We had a update just this last Monday about an imminent counterstrike coming from Israel. A lot of naysayers were there. Israel did perform a counterstrike, maybe not to the escalatory level you would have anticipated, but at the same time, it did happen because it was pretty obvious it would. Now, I'm concerned because the Iranian regime is saying, if they do something again, we're going to do something crazy, right? Even though they've been playing it off all day, I would just keep that in mind as well, because you lose face when you say you're going to do something and then you don't, especially in a leadership position. And I'm not sure who's willing to do that first, but I am sure that this has the potential to get much crazier. So anything else you need from me, go to magicprepper.com. And besides that, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.